place where I can get a hot dog. I'm a low palate guy. Said, I haven't had a hot dog in 2 games. It's at the alumni tent. Have whatever you want, but as long as you got hamburgers, hot dogs, and nachos, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. Hi again, everybody, and welcome back to the Dr. Z and J-Dub podcast presented by Provenzano's Deli and the Charger Athletic Fund. I'm J.W. Stewart, along with our UNH Athletic Director, Dr. Z, Shay, and Zenger. As always, our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play, and of course, across all of our social media channels. Dr. Z, it's great to see you as always. How you doing?
It's good to be here. Last week we had an interesting interview, a fun interview with Dr. Joe, and before that, Coach Pence, and we're looking forward to having our head men's soccer coach today.
Yep. Our guest today is Brian Quinn. So it's been a soccer or football heavy, if you will, right? We have American football and what the world calls football here on the first month of our season 2 of our podcast. So Brian Quinn is in the green room. Technically, he's in his office on the other side of campus. He'll be joining us in about 5 minutes or so. I just want to remind everyone that with an annual gift of $500 or more to the Charger Athletic Fund, you get access to the pregame football VIP tent, the sideline VIP tent, and the postgame reception at the German Club. Z, things on campus the last week or so have been developing with the Peterson Performance Center. Or have we been blowing stuff up on campus the last week? What's going on?
You know, J-Dub, you're stealing our thunder from literally and figuratively. A few weeks from now, we'll probably do a podcast about the PPC. But yeah, we had explosives going off last week. So we have the official groundbreaking on homecoming weekend. We started to drill a few weeks ago, but last week they had dynamite going off, shaking our offices and whatnot. It was quite.
We've had a couple of home football games already, 2 in the books. We have a third one coming up on Saturday against Southern Connecticut rivalry game. It's family weekend. You've been here now for a couple of years. You got here in 2019, so you've seen now 2 football seasons. What is the tailgate scene like here at UNH?
You know what? It's really a lot of fun. Each of the first few games have had first 2 games have had some really good tailgating, but I've seen homecoming here before, which is just as good as anywhere. And I've heard that Southern will be equal to it, if not better. You know, living here in West Haven, in my little corner, I like to call it Westyville. I've got a breakfast club I meet with every Saturday morning, and there's a couple of Southern guys in that club. I don't know how they got there, but they're now wearing New Haven gear
as well. Let's bring in our guest today, Brian Quinn. He's the men's soccer coach here at the University of New Haven, and Coach Quinn joins us from his office on the other side of campus. Coach, how are you?
Well, I'm pretty hungry, and you guys talking about food like that, you're killing me. You know, I had breakfast before our practice at about 6:30 this morning, and I haven't had lunch. So it's been a rough 5 minutes listening to you two.
We can ramp that up on you, Coach. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about food in this group.
We hear tailgating, we think football, American football. Is there soccer tailgates either here or around the world?
Well, around the world, absolutely. Here, a good bit of it now. You know, as the pro leagues have grown, and you know, you see a lot of that activity out in the parking lots there, or national team games. So yeah, it's a pretty active social scene outside the stadium. The American Outlaws are big at all the U.S. international games up at Rensselaer Field. It's something you want to experience sometime in your life.
Coach, how is the team doing this year? Your thoughts on how the Chargers are doing on the soccer pitch?
Yeah, the boys have made a great start to the season. You know, hit the ground running. I think we have good balance between some really talented newcomers that have made an impact, you know, pretty quickly, and then also a good group of upperclassmen that are really focused and came back, you know, maybe the fittest they've ever been. So, you know, the mix of those two is really working in our favor right now to put some good performances in.
So you were hired in 2019, in February of 2019. You coached the 2019 season. Of course, 2020 canceled because of COVID. What was that like for you as a coach? You're here to start coaching. You only get a year under your belt here, even though you've coached other places. You have to hit the pause button and get started back up. What's that been like for you as a coach and the program overall?
Challenging, you know, for sure. And it was a really difficult year. You know, I saw something on, you know, one of the social medias about, you know, somebody posted something saying, if I just had 1 year out of my life, you know, where I could just take time off and do whatever I want and get caught up on everything, you know, I'd be really happy. And then underneath it, there was a little caption that said, nope, that wasn't it. And really,
you alluded to this, Coach. Do you feel that the student athletes, coaches, people have a greater appreciation just for the opportunity to play again?
I think that they have a greater appreciation that, they do have the opportunity, and they're not taking things for granted and maybe gambling with their health like they might have, prior to going through this, maybe even a year ago.
Coach, how could you recruit during COVID when you really couldn't leave the house?
Well, a lot of video. There was a lot of video. The recruits that came in the fall of 2020, we'd already more or less ID'd, so we were rolling, with those guys already. But then the next group of guys, for the fall of 2021, it was hard to get out and see things. And then, as I said, things started to loosen up a little bit in the winter months. So you got to a couple of, ID clinics, that were, close by, and opportunity there to catch a couple of kids that maybe were not on your radar before. But a lot of it was just done, especially with the international guys, through video.
I don't know that you can even comment on this, Coach, but I will say, to someone who's a step removed from the field, I think in the next year or two, we're going to see a lot of young people who fell through the cracks both ways. Those who are at places where they maybe are far more talented than their peers, and those who are maybe over recruited and aren't qualified. And that's going to make for some interesting viewership in the next couple of years of all sports. But I think soccer is one of those where it shows up really quick.
Yeah. And schools are closing too, sadly. Number of universities and colleges, they haven't survived, and those guys are coming out and going on the market as well. So yeah, it's a weird time. There's a real strange dynamic out there in the recruiting world right now.
Actually, the international recruiting, a lot done via video. I was really impressed taking a look at the roster. How many countries are represented on our men's soccer roster?
We've got a lot of Europeans, one or two South Americans, and then even some of the American quote unquote guys, they have foreign roots. So, we got a pretty good diverse one there. I don't know, maybe we should put up a flag for each one of the countries out of the field.
How many different languages are spoken on your team?
And I'm learning a lot of different languages, what the bad words are that you're not supposed to speak, I learned Cyprus, what the bad word is there. The Portuguese have one that's pretty prevalent. So, you hear those, and then the Spanish guys and, the Swedish guys more or less speak English most of the time, but they can go, in their own tongue once in a while.
So back closer to home, we were talking before about the rivalry between the University of New Haven and Southern Connecticut. And of course, Brian, you have a real interesting viewpoint. You've been on both sides of this rivalry. You played and coached at Southern, including winning 3 national championships at Southern as an assistant coach. How would you describe the rivalry between these two schools?
I would say it's a healthy rivalry. I really would. You always have people that you go at it a little bit more with, some more than others, but I think the last time we were on this podcast, this came up, and I just talked about how, much respect you have and how fun it is to compete against, your good friends, even though, you're out there, playing to win. It's nice to be able to look, once in a while down the line and smile about something, and, have a chat after the game, and, maybe catch up for a meal or a beer or something like that. So yeah, it's a good healthy rivalry. I don't think there's any bad blood, any kind of animosity between anybody, within the programs.
Is it weird to compete? It's not just a place that you coached. You were a student there, so you graduated from there. Is it weird competing against your alma mater?
No, because I've been doing it before with University of Bridgeport. So maybe the first time, a couple of times, but after that, it just becomes normal, becomes part of the routine. And once you get on that season hamster wheel, they're just another step as you move forward there.
Let me ask you this. What were your thoughts of the University of New Haven before you came to work at the University of New Haven?
Honestly, I didn't really know too many people, and I didn't know much about it. Had met Laura Duncan, had heard of Jen Fallon, because she played at Sacred Heart for one of my former teammates. She was a college soccer player and a very good one too. So I'd heard of those people, but any of the other sports, I really didn't have any kind of relationship with any of the coaches or anything. So only knew what I knew from competing against them, along the way over the years. And even that, those opportunities were limited in my latter tenure at my last school.
Perfect segue, Z. Our guest last week on the podcast was Dr. Joe Machnick, National Soccer Hall of Famer, has worked here at the University of New Haven as the AD for a time, men's soccer coach, women's soccer coach, men's hockey coach. These days, he is a broadcaster with Fox Sports doing soccer, of course. So the question to you, Coach Q, how well do you know Dr. Joe, and can you share a funny story or two with us?
Dr. Joe is a legend. Absolutely love Dr. Joe. I've known him and his wife Barbara for a long time. There's a lot of funny stories, but there's one in particular I would like to share with you. He's been a pretty prominent guy in the business for a long time, in the soccer business. I know in overall in athletics and in that world too. But and back high school days, going into my maybe junior year of high school, our goalkeeper just found this unique goalkeeper camp that was out there for goalkeepers only, and went to this goalkeeper camp and came back and raved about it, and talked about this guy, Joe Machnick, and he had a Joe Machnick book, and how amazing the camp was. And the next year my brother was a goalkeeper, so he went to go to the camp as well. And it was a big thing, to go up there and experience this specialized goalkeeper training that really was unique at the time. I made me be the only goalkeeper camp in the entire country that specialized that way. So never met him over the years. And then probably around 1990, first got introduced to him because my roommate at the time was a goalkeeper coach that worked at his number one camps in the summertime. So got introduced to Doc, and met him, and passing a few times. He became the goalkeeper coach for the U.S. team at the 1990 World Cup. We ended up, my wife and I ended up living in a house in Brantford near where Dr. Z was staying when he first got out here. And that was less than a mile from where the Machnicks lived at the time. So we would see him around town. We typically saw them every Sunday at Mass when we went to St. Mary's Church in Brantford. So we're seeing him for a number of years. And 1994, the U.S. is hosting the World Cup. And it comes down to the last day of group play. And we're leaving Mass. The U.S. has to, win or tie their game or something like that to secure passage into the next rounds. But it was still possible if they lost the game to advance based on all the math and everything like that. So as we're leaving Mass, I see Doc, and he says, "Hey, where are you watching the game today?" I was like, I'd probably just watching at home. And he says, "Well, why don't you come over? We're going to have some food. A couple of people are coming over that I knew." I said, "Oh yeah, okay, that would be great. So, what can we bring?" And all this stuff. So we go over to Doc's house, and Doc's got, 3 televisions set up, 2 of them outside, on the deck. He's got a big cardboard box cut out to, encase the TV so you can see it with all the sun shining. And we're there, and, you start having some beers, and we're watching the game, on the edge of our seat. The U.S. ends up losing their game, but still, just the way the math worked out, they advance as the highest seeded third place team. So they get through, and we're all happy. We all sit down, the family, we're having dinner, now, this is going on probably 3 hours, going on 4 hours of watching TV, eating food, and drinking beer. And then, we're really starting to laugh and have a good time. And then after dinner, the Sambuca starts coming out. So then things really get kicked off. Doc in those days was he was racing cars. So end of the night, we end up out in Doc's garage, and he's in the front seat of the race car in his garage, and he's cranking the race car up and like revving the engine on it had to be Sunday night because we were at Mass, and he's cranking this car's engine, probably at 11 o'clock at night. And it was just a wild day.
For some reason, I was expecting the gear to get put in reverse in the garage door. It ended better than I thought.
Yeah.
No, never left the garage. Never. Either on purpose or by accident.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he invited the neighbors over. Just want to let people know about our female and male athletes of the week. Female athlete of the week, Kira Integlia, for field hockey. She's our goalie. She held the number 2 team in the country, Westchester, to 1 goal in a 1-0 loss. Athlete of the week from Coach Quinn's team, Paul Santanach, 2 goals in a 5-3 win over Nyack, and then 1 goal in a loss to AIC. As we record this here on Tuesday, September the 21st, the men's soccer team is 3-1. A couple more games coming up this week. So off to a good start. Your thoughts on Coach Q and what he said today, and whether or not he comes down to see you in West Haven on the beaches?
Yeah, I really enjoyed Coach Quinn. He what you see is what you get. Been in business a long time. Really hits a nice tenor there with athletes and with other coaches, and he's a consummate professional.
Yeah, we always enjoy having him on the broadcast, and he is a very good storyteller, a fun person to talk to, and hopefully when he takes that trip to Ireland with his wife, whenever it is, hopefully it's just vacation. He's not there recruiting, but he might be.
Yeah, it'd be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll wrap things up for this week's edition of the Dr. Z and J-Dub podcast, presented by Provenzano's Deli and the Charger Athletic Fund. For more, you can go to the Charger Athletic Fund website to donate. For Dr. Z and our executive producer, John Mays, and our producer, Broccoli Rob Thompson, I'm J.W. Stewart. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week on the Dr. Z and J-Dub podcast.
Pretty fluent in swearing at about 4, I would say maybe 5. And I do that a lot so that the refs don't know what I'm saying.